Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I am ManyNinjas. This is the third and final part of the Downtown Special run, with Downtown Special being the side story sequel for River City Ransom. To give a short recap of what's been going on since the last episode, at this point we effectively have almost every available tech in the game. We realized that Saji was in fact a traitor among us. Atome was kidnapped at one point, which was very short-lived because she managed to escape and rescue herself effectively, and now we're down to the last part of the endgames where we're going to be hitting the last one or two real gangs left. Revealing exactly who was working with the Saji all along and taking care of the last of Bunzo's enemies. First gotta equip the Big Bang, which admittedly you're not missing much if you don't get the Big Bang, but hey, we already got it so might as well. And now for the facing off with this red gang here, which I believe would be the equivalent to the gang that Slick belonged to if you were playing in RCR, and thus one of the last gangs you could possibly come across in the high school. Kunio himself has basically mastered the art of punching and kicking things, as all those stats are maxed out, and even the weapon stats are still really high up. So effectively, everything that's possible can do max damage for the most part. Reg himself has done quite a bit of leveling as well, although not nearly as much on account of him dying a lot, and just general stupidity. At least on the bright side, with all the enemies coming down here in the pool with us, at least Ricky can't start randomly running into walls just yet. I spoke too soon, ladies and gentlemen. Never mind. And now that I mean, that's actually kind of impressive though, for all the stupidity there. It's nice to be able to... well, I spoke too soon. It's nice to have someone that's able to magically grab someone, jump in the air, and pummel them as if they were on the ground. Just one of those weird physics things this game can do, as everyone manages to magically climb out of the pool. If you could jump that high in the first place, why were you running into the wall at all, Ricky? Really? Come on now. Technically, at least here would make a little more sense because of the icy ground physics of why you'd run into a wall. Maybe you were just running and couldn't stop. But no, that actually occurs everywhere else too, including areas with higher traction. You just randomly run into walls all the time, Ricky. You know what happens when you die from running into walls and just getting beat up constantly? You lose money. Half of the money you have on you, Ricky. And technically, you don't have a lot going on. Why? Because you're constantly dying. And each time you die, Ricky, someone's gotta patch you up. Someone that charges half of what you happen to have on you. This isn't Canada, Ricky. Healthcare is not free. That's not how it works here in Osaka. Actually, now that I think about it, ladies and gentlemen, during the odd times where Ricky has died earlier, and ended up getting swapped out with another partner, such as when Sui was introduced as a playable character, when I picked him up back at Bunzo, he didn't actually have any health either at that point. Which begs the question, if he's on your side, why don't you have the decency to patch him up? He's trying to help you with your case here, Bunzo, and yet nothing? You can't give the guy some damn food or something like that? What the hell's up to that, you cheap, dingy bastard? That's probably why everyone's relying on Kuno in order to take care of everything. He's the only one smart enough to take care of himself. This is in the case of Kuno being forced apart by kicking a man when he's down, or kicking and punching him in one of the cases. It's merely him trying to express the anger and frustration in his heart from all the silliness that's going on around him. Actually, now that I think about it, here's another change from RCR, or at least it will be a change from later builds. Unless it's a story-driven action, enemies can't actually run away from you. The only enemies that can run away are basically ones that are just there for just a quick bit of dialogue, and as soon as they're done their dialogue, that's when they start running away. Well, hypothetically, you can attack them while they're talking, unless you do so and manage to kill them in the incredibly short time you have there. There's not much you can do about it. Although now that I think about it, on a related note, there was a bug, I'm not sure if it was in this run or an earlier one I was just doing for fun, where I had one of the characters that were supposed to be an NPC that just had a dialogue line we're supposed to run off. They were in an area just like this one, or if not the part just over, and they kept running into a wall, which basically broke the game, making it so that I couldn't progress properly because they wouldn't disappear, and I had to basically leave the area and find them somewhere else in order to get the story to progress normally again. Look at it. Speaking of exams where you can just beat up an NPC until they run off, Asadi, thank you for coming in order to prove my point. Yep, there he goes. We can now move on and continue the story elsewhere. Let's see. see at this point. Alright, there's confrontation music coming on there, so the fact we haven't seen anyone yet means there's going to be a single boss or another story element there. Let's see. Alright, no, this is actually just another story element. And now think about it, it might have been Heisey in the past that had the problem with running into a wall with the game-breaking bug, now that I think about it. And it would have happened back in that snowy mountain area. Now that Heisey runs off, thankfully, in that direction, we can proceed with the next part of the story. Let's see, do we have any gangs to fight this time around? And on this part... Okay, one of these routes will lead the right way. There we go. Black gang here. If the red gang wasn't the very last one, then the black gang, which kind of represents the mob. It's one of those two have to be the last boss or the last gangs that you'd be running into in the original titles. In this case, it's kind of harder to tell though, because the shade of black that they use for the clothing is effectively the same kind of black, or almost the same shade they use for the actual outline, so it's really hard to tell what's going on there. Kind of a moot point to have the designs then. At least on the bright side of this general area. There aren't any walls you can potentially run into, so I believe Ricky will be safe for at least a little longer. As long as he doesn't get hit by something like giant boulders, for example. Honestly, I keep bringing up the wall thing because it's just one of those odd quirks with the AI that it's not present in just this game. It was effectively present in all the NES titles as far as I can think of, where you had something like this going on. Obviously, not so much in RCR, or at least the original one, because you didn't have a AI partner at the time. But in the sequel, where they introduced the AI partner, you've probably seen countless amount of time where my partner keeps running into a damn wall. In the Ricky Kuno, which is basically the 4-player or 4-person fighting game, which is kind of another little side story there, where it's basically just a pure fighting game. It's, on the one hand, it's got some really great ideas about it. In fact, not only are there a bunch of different characters you can potentially use, including the kind of create your own character setup, you can also end up having to play with a bunch of different styles, and all those styles have their own sets of moves and unique stances or idle animations to go along with them, so all the characters are a lot more customized there. Mind you, the AI partner you have has the same issue where if there's some kind of walls up, they'll often end up running into it. It's just something that ended up becoming really prevalent with your AI partners throughout the course of all the games. Which begs the question, why it never patched out at any point. And here's another kind of one of those random thoughts there. I recall, I've heard about one of the Super Famicom games that added on top of having Kuno and Ricky there, actually had the option or ability to play as the girlfriends of all people, as they were helping after Kuno and Ricky got framed for some kind of incident, something that got arrested for. It might have been a murder or something like that, of all things. And now I'm trying to think to myself, were there ever any playable female protagonists within the NES parts? I've seen some sprite sets or something that would indicate that, yes, something like that did happen, but I can't recall if those were actually custom made or based off something that actually popped up in the games. Clearly they had some kind of idea for that going on, because it did actually pop up in one of the Super Famicom titles, to my understanding, but if it ever popped up in the same kind of 8-bit style as what's going on here, I personally can't tell right now. I can't recall for sure, since I would have just never come across a game like that. Now that I think about it. Oh. That's where Tora's been this whole time. As we have a Saji that just randomly decided to have a nice color change. And he's not doing anything, so let's just punch and kick him there. Unfortunately, this guys we can't beat Tora this time around, so it's a matter of whatever the hell Tora was just doing and beating him up in order to steal that move, because it's funny. As Ricky dies again. Thanks to the great help, Ricky. And I just got punched off screen. So we're gonna have to fight that gang all over again. But once more with... Where is the gang? There was a gang here, ladies and gentlemen. It's gone now. So it's time to order to, well, let's see. Okay, weapon is going much nicer at this point. Let's say, might as well just finish maxing out weapon, why not? And let's figure out where that... No, the hell, we're already here. Yeah, I'm gonna just take out my frustrations on the frat boys here, because let's build up a little more stats just because. I know that the gangs move around on a semi-regular basis, but I wouldn't have literally expected them to leave the area after a few seconds. So I guess the timer on that one must have just run out. Which is really unfortunate for Rat Boys here, because they just showed up just when they don't belong. That was nice 180 plus damage there. I wonder if at this point I could manage to get... Yeah, there we go. There's the 200 plus damage. It's very unfortunate the way it works here, where they happen to have vitality of their own, because it really just prolongs their suffering. At this point, this particular group has no chance in hell of winning. They're just there for you to literally use them as grinding in order to get additional stats. Really unfair to them. Helpful me. Let's max out weapon. Also, at least another part of the bright side here. This particular section, it's just a more interesting terrain, a more varied terrain, and has a lot more foliage. There's a lot more plant life here. The other one is basically just a large hill, whatever you want to call there, and that's about it. Now we have a little more green, a little more magenta. It's so much nicer here. Actually, make that it's a very nice place as long as you're not wearing a light blue, any light blue clothing. Because if you are, then you're having a bad time. You're just trying to lie around, maybe catch some sun, and you're getting dragon kicked in the face. That's just not fun. Okay, getting back to the actual game itself. There can't be too many more left. They've got to be pretty close to done at this point. Maybe like a headbutt or two away from in order to get the boss of the whole gang here. Gotta be around here. So, no, not just yet. Okay, maybe this is the last one. Yeah, that gotta hurt. Probably one of the other nice parts of this area is just it's actually pretty long there, so it's really hard to accidentally knock someone off screen, unless you can keep beating them around for a while. Alright, we hit the input again. Alright, Joe, fight me, or I ain't letting you pass. Yes, because that really worked the last dozen or so times at this point. It's really not much of a threat when every time you show up, it's simply to receive an ass kicking. Come on, get with the program here. Okay, I guess you both want to continue fighting off screen or something like that? Is that how this is going to go down? Sure, maybe let Ricky be the boss for a change. Let's see what goes on here. Ah, never mind. I don't feel like waiting for Ricky. It's taking too long. There we go. And now with him down, let's try to find that one gang again. Nope, none of this part is right. Which means they are either above ground or underneath the bridge. Nope, no one's around this way. They gotta be underneath the bridge then. There we go. This bigger location with the fact it's got a wall ornament. It's not the best place to fight, but at least there's no walls to run into here. And they were kind enough to provide a giant stone to attack with, so let's use it. You know, a lot of these gang members are amazingly sturdy for people who are getting bludgeoned with rocks. You do that to a person in real life, they won't be able to get up again and again like they do here. It's just not the same. You know, that's probably why it costs so much. Why it usually goes like half your money in case you end up getting knocked out. Because with the severe beatings you can take running through a round of this game, it can't possibly be cheap in order to have someone patch you back together. Suddenly that makes a lot more sense now. Especially if you manage to kind of refill your health. Sure, you kind of pump your health, but doesn't matter if you've been sponge kicked, probably stabbed, bludgeoned, and sometimes just kind of smacked directly into walls, off cliffs, or other variety of things in this particular level that can happen. So yeah, there's gotta be a lot of patching. That takes more than a bandage, ladies and gentlemen, to patch up. Perhaps it's possible I've been hard on Ricky too much during this entire run. Not to mention the fact that the severe beating he's taken along the way, and not to mention as a non-playable character, his mortality is much more suspect than Kuno's as the playable character, who can basically survive just about everything at this point, and has the money to buy anything to patch himself up on the way, due to some really well-placed gambling. I'm just gonna throw this out there. You know what might toughen Ricky up a bit? If he had some facial hair here. Now, I know, yes, he's technically supposed to be a teenager in this thing, and this is technically a whole play or whatever, but if you put some facial hair, maybe he might be suddenly more tough. It works for other people as well. Obviously, I'm not gonna go with Chuck Norris there, quite frankly, it's just too much has been said about Chuck Norris as is, for better or worse there. But if you want a Techno's example, think a Bobo. Just listen to me on this one. If you go by the official concept art from his official appearances, and from the first Double Dragon, Bobo was actually clean-shaven. But, his in-game strike is kind of vague enough that people started attributing a mustache to him, and a lot of fan art from then on out kind of had him keep that mustache. And of course you have things like Bobo's Big Adventure, where the mustache is plain as day. He has the mustache from there on out. And if you look at the Kickstarter for the River City Ransom sequel, River City Ransom Underground, they added a playable Bobo, and yes, he does have the mustache there as well. It's now a permanent fixture on a Bobo. And since then, Bobo is now effectively considered invincible. See? Facial hair? Probably a good idea. Yes, I know technically Tora is playable or is the actual boss here, but it doesn't mean I can't just smack Asaji a bit more because, quite frankly, it's fun. Whereas this time around, now he can't hide around somewhere else. I have to stop accidentally hitting Ricky with the object to the ground. Okay, let's try a new weapon for this change pace. In this case, this stick here would be usable with the dagger special attack that would have been learned off the one of the earlier enemies, or you could buy it from a secret shop. And Ricky, as usual, takes a bit of a beating there, but let's have... Okay, he was able to get back up. And now it's just time to be cheap and pummel the hell out of Tora. And I'm not sure what technique I just learned there on the spot there, but I'm going to find out in a minute. As soon as I'm done with this boss. Right? I don't know what technique I learned. Everything was already there from before. That was weird. Now that's not nice language. But apparently that was the end of Tora there. So that really leaves one last thing to do. Wait, did I have Mach Weapon from before? I can't recall. I'm pretty sure I did, so I really don't know what technique I just learned a moment ago. But after getting rid of these guys at least one last time, it's time to track down Asaji, and even I think that was me just there. Okay, we have full weapon stat at this point, so let's just finish adding some more vitality. Not that this is going to do much good, the game's just about done. I'm basically good to go check on the last bosses myself here. Alright, Ricky. Ricky running around with a buck on his head and an enemy running to walls. Ricky, what are you doing? Idiots. I'm surrounded by idiots here, ladies and gentlemen. I have an idiot partner that... Everything, what I said about Ricky earlier, about feeling sorry, I take that back now, ladies and gentlemen. I don't feel sorry for Ricky anymore. Not at all, not in the slightest, ladies and gentlemen. And I have enemies that are running into walls of their own free volition. My partner is running around with a bucket his head back and forth. See, apparently the game just doesn't want to say, hey, I'm gonna stop and take this bucket off my head. That's not happening here. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Why? This is more than I signed up for, ladies and gentlemen. I asked for one thing and one thing only, really. A helpful partner here, and I can't even get that. I don't think he's going to stop running around with the bucket until I do something to knock the bucket off his head for him. Actually, I think I wonder... No, he's got no walls around him. He's just running in a straight line back and forth. It's very fast, though. But, yeah, we had an enemy who was just running to the wall the whole time while I was watching this silliness. Yes, look, I'm actually speechless right now, ladies and gentlemen. I can't think of how to respond to this right now. I feel I need to put a stop to this. Either I need to heal the boss or just leave the area, or let's see, is there some way I can knock the bucket off there? Ricky's not got a lot of health left, so I'm not sure how much damage tossing the stone at would do, but you know, let's take care of Jinbai and then figure out maybe scrolling off screen will get the bucket off his head. Hopefully that'll work. Thankfully oh, actually, Jimbo, could you knock that thing off his head? Thank you. Thank you. And your reward for your good deed is I'm gonna kick your ass. That's how this is gonna go down. And Ricky is dead anyway. Ricky, you have brought nothing to the conversation today. I just want you to know that. Okay. We're gonna scroll off here. Let's go to the map screen. Let's leave this place and never speak of this again. And let's go off for the last gangs. I can't remember if the Grey Gang is an actual gang or... Nope. Right, that was the wrong direction. I think I've seen the gray color before. I think it's an event-based gang, which really means I'm running into an NPC in a second. So, hey, let's just go over there. Stop what you're doing there. Oh, no, that was also the wrong exit. That's one return of the annoying exits for this area. I needed to leave by the top of this bridge in order to get to the next part of the same region. And no, we actually have a gang here. Okay, let's beat up this light gray gang, which I don't know what the equivalent is for RCR. In this case, this gang has nowhere to run, quite literally because of the traction on this ground here. It is a matter of beating up this last gang, and I think this has to be like the second last gang of the game. This time it has to be like the second last gang of the game. There's basically no one left. We know Asaji's on the run at this point, and there's basically no one to cover for him at this point. Alright, Ricky, now is your time to shine. Let's see. You come on now, Ricky. Yeah, that's better, Ricky. That's much better. Yes, kick them while they're down. Actually do damage. And most importantly, don't die. I really do wonder who the heck is at the end of this gang, because as far as I know, I don't think there's, aside from Asaji, there's anyone left to fight at this point. And if it was an NPC thing, wouldn't they have just shown up on their own there? This is actually a really good question. Who the hell is left? Well, we've got to still go through a few more gang members here in order to figure out the answer for that. I wonder if just generally tossing them out actually does any damage since it doesn't show any kind of a number there, at least. Maybe I just overlooked it. And, okay, let's move on to the next part. Where are they? Okay, both of them hiding in the water. Why not? Nothing that quick beating with a giant rock can't fix. That's just not fair at this point. It's like rapid fire hits, about 50 damage each, which with how quickly you can spam them and how long they stay on the ground there, that does more than any one special for the most part, as far as I know. really wish they kind of showed a health bar or something showing not only the stamina, the vitality. I'd really like to see just how quickly it drops because of attacks like that. I guess they couldn't do it, of course, because of not only sprite constraints, but just the general space it would take. Maybe this would built for maybe like a later system. I haven't had the chance to play any of the Super Famicom games, so I can't tell if they did actually end up adding some kind of a health indicator for enemies later on. But if they did, this would be a really interesting thing to see, just how quickly their health just absolutely vanishes because of Mach-based attacks like that. You know, this is gotta be one of the last gang members for this particular group here. Why not just beat them down for more 50 plus damage? Okay, Ricky stopped moving, which means the gang leader has shown up at this point. And alright, well, haven't seen you in a while. Alright, you came by to give us an item, and you're gonna run off, aren't you? Alright, well, that was nice enough. The item he gave, let me see. Actually, no, I already know what item he gave. The item he would have given at this point is referred to as good time or good times. Well, basically maxes out your money, as far as I can recall, which is useful if you reach this point of the game. You're basically done anyway, so you could pass by any stores or anything you already had at this point, or that you've come across, and buy any items or text that you want to do but couldn't because of the lack of cash, which admittedly was never really a problem. At this point, really, the last thing left to do is to just face off with the last boss. The last boss fight there. Yep. The series of the Red Gang, which is Saji's gang, so this should be the final confrontation. At this point, I don't believe this gang has actually gotten any more help at this point, so it's just a matter of beat it up and then come across Saji himself to settle the score once and for all. It's been fun punching and kicking him around when he decides to run away, but it's time to actually have the proper matchup now. In case I haven't mentioned earlier, it's something that I did pick up later or a little earlier on. If you manage to do any of your attacks just after landing, it will still carry over the bonus that you would have had from a jumping attack, at least for a brief moment. So it's a good idea if you can just time it just right, do a jump, land right beside the opponent, and then start wailing on them, because it does an extra attack damage for them. It's kind of the same deal if you were doing a running attack. They'll give you a small attack bonus as well. That'll last just for a brief period, although with the problem with some of the running attacks, if you already have a special equip, you'll end up using that thing and they'll use the whole thing at once. And of course, actually, now that I think, but that's probably the only problem. If you have some attacks like the headbutt or the slap attack, it'll use that automatically by default, and by the time that attack runs out, the bonus you could have gotten from using a normal attack would have already run out at that point. It's still pretty useful though if you have a weapon in your hand. You'll end up using your Mach weapon attack instead, which, if you have it a really high setting there, can do stupid amount of damage. Since at this point we're at the last boss fight, there's some special equipment that I could have picked up during this particular run that, while it would have really not added too much to gameplay, which is added some interesting quirks. No, Ricky, we don't want to run off during the last battle. That's better. As I was about to say for the last equipment, namely there was the specialty boots I did mention that would have added more traction for running on ice surfaces, or reduced tractions for running on the dirt area, but I'm not sure if I mentioned this one earlier. There's also in one of the secret shops a special set of air boots, for lack of a better term, where it will actually allow you to jump really high even when you're not running, and if you hold down A and B, it will let you do a gradual float down instead of having gravity take you down normally. What practical use that has? None whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen. Aside from maybe one, two kind of fancy jumps in certain areas, it has no real practical usage at all. But if you have the money to blow on it, why not? All the other equipment for the most part are just general stat building items. are, yeah, mostly I can't think of too many that add really special effects aside from certain boots, except for maybe something like the magic robes, which I have equipped right now, which, at least for the player character, end up adding extra regenerative health. And while I was saying that, surprise, surprise, Asad is here, and his accomplice is Slick. Yep, the same Slick that is the boss of the original title, and he's back as the boss, as the accomplice here. While it's entirely possible to have it so you can actually keep Slick and he doesn't affect the turn traitor for you, I didn't do it on this particular run, so Juki, with the proper name for this title, ends up turning on you. However, if you happen to have go through the second way to recruit Juki, or if you have him playing as your partner in this, he won't actually turn on you, and it will actually be Asaji fighting on his own. Unfortunately, they're both whips. That was your anticlimactic final battle, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that was actually seriously the boss right there. Much easier than most of the other boss fights at this point. The hardest one would probably be the one that could actually... Oh, let's put there. Unfortunately, I missed 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 more specials that I could have possibly got, but we still got most of the list, and I think some of those are literally impossible to get under normal means. So, still a valiant effort there. We still got most of the techniques. Alright. Now we've gone back to Sura, we're visiting Bunzo, and... what's this? I don't like where you're going with this, announcer man. Do not make me come over there. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is indeed the end, and now we are at the nice little ending sequence here. Bunzo congratulates for a good job. Everyone's wearing new pink-colored robes. And here's a split in the ending. Oh, my mistake, it wasn't Otome, it was Okoto. My mistake earlier. And at this point, the game gives you an option. You can either proceed to marry Otogo or Okoto, or go with what we're gonna go with. Yes, Kono. Come on. Yes, we go. We're gonna drift, ladies and gentlemen. Why? 1, this is actually the more interesting and longer of the endings. And 2, here's the logic behind picking this one. Well, this is probably the smarter of the 2 endings. 1, we're rich. We have all the money in the world right now. More money than we can ever possibly need in this currency here. 2, I don't suppose you notice, if we hung around here, or had the marriage take place, we'd be stuck around here. In this area where all our partners are so intelligent that they run into walls constantly. No thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm gonna go drift somewhere else. Somewhere where there's a nice land, with either no walls or... actually, no, not no walls. Just none of these people that are stupid enough to run into walls. I'm gonna use my vast fortunes, and I'm gonna build myself a nice walled city. Admittance will be good for everyone. The only thing, you have to be able to get through in the door. You have to dodge the walls and get in through the door. If you can accomplish that, you are welcome in my city, ladies and gentlemen. Which is why I'm 90% sure I will never see any of these people again. They will all die at my walls. Aside from having a new paint job every now and then, I'll have peace and tranquility in my walled city, away from all these idiotic gangs and more idiotic partners. And it will be good, ladies and gentlemen. And with that said and done, this is actually the end of Downtown Special as we go through the credit sequence here. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching my playthrough of this, which is the sped up playthrough because of all the extra items I grabbed earlier. The game can actually run a lot longer without them. And as for what I'll be doing next time, I haven't decided just yet. Yeah, it might be another bit of the Kunio-Kun series, or just maybe moving on to another system entirely for the next system. I'm not sure just yet. But thank you for watching this particular run on Retro Ninja Gaming, and I'll be catching you all next time. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, one last note before we take off. on the Mr. A end of things with pixel art and such, we're going to be doing a few things related to a little more Bobo related work, just for fun, as well as some stuff related to the higher res or the CPS2 res Shantae stuff, which should be showing up sooner or later. Take care, ladies and gentlemen.